Let's talk about IndyCar, though. Third story, and one of the hottest topics, just announced this morning. 2024 Indy NXT champ Louis Foster graduating and moving up to the NTT IndyCar Series in 2025. Foster just signed a multi-year deal to drive for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And the press release didn't specify whether he'd run full-time, part-time, or if he'd drive the 30 or the 45. However, according to Nate Brown from IndyStar, team official confirmed that it is, in fact, full-time. Promotion to IndyCar comes after a dominant season in Indy NXT that saw him win 8 of the 14 races, 7 poles, 12 podiums, led 57 of all the laps completed in the 2024 season, and managed to complete every single lap. Photo courtesy of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Kobe, Matt, we've now got 3 of the last 4 Indy NXT champions in the 2025 IndyCar season. How good of an opportunity is this for Foster to show what he can do?
Yeah. And before I answer that question, Jackson, I'll read what Ben says. He said, if IndyCar goes to the playoffs, I would like to officially announce my retirement from motorsports media. Oh, you want to
really quickly before we actually get to this? It's not like playoff formats. We're putting this to bed for sure after this. It's not like playoff things are controversial outside of racing. Just ask Ben's Phillies and the LA Dodgers right now. Go.
Okay then. But getting back to Louis Foster, I think this is a spectacular opportunity for him. I'm really happy that he's going to have something for the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series season. I was afraid, like we already talked about in the first segment, that this silly season, coming up, and actually it might have talked about it in a segment I watched earlier today. It's actually from last month. Jackson, you were actually on the Encore show talking with Ben and Brandon about Louis Foster. Then I watched that little clip before talking about this on tonight's segment. So that's when you guys were talking about it. You were saying that 2025 was, one of the most competitive silly seasons in recent memory, and for that very reason, I thought Louis Foster may be left on the sidelines. But thankfully, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing saw that he had a whole bunch of potential, and based on everything you read, Jackson, like, it doesn't get more dominant than that. Can you imagine someone basically leading 57% of the entire championship season? It honestly doesn't get more dominant in today's age, given how competitive motorsports is all around the world, and nearly leading 60% of laps all year long. That just speaks to how good of a race car driver Louis Foster is. And that's not a knock on the rest of the Indy NXT field. I'm not saying that the Indy NXT field as a whole is bad, and Louis Foster just too. I'm not saying that he was too good to be in Indy NXT or anything like that. It's still a very competitive championship. Just Louis Foster, he was just in a different zip code for a lot of the races this season. And I think that this opportunity to go with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing is definitely well deserved, and looking forward to seeing how he gets along. I did think it was interesting, how in the press release, like you say, Jackson didn't specify if he was running full-time and part-time, and Nathan Brown had to go hunt down one of the team officials to say that it's full-time. I wonder what car is he going to get. Is he going to get the 45 and replace Kristen Lundgaard in that? Or are we going to see Pietro Fittipaldi return? And if Fittipaldi doesn't return, are we going to see Louis Foster slide into a 30, and maybe they promote the reserve driver, Yuri Vips, to the 45? So there's still a lot of questions left to answer about the full driver lineup with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, but whether he's in the 30 or the 45, I think Louis Foster is a really, really good signing. I know Bobby Rahal is quoted on Racer.com saying that, in the next driver he wanted to add to his team, he's looking for the next Kristen Lundgaard, a young driver with a lot of potential. And I think they definitely found that in Louis Foster. I even saw someone compare Louis Foster to Justin Wilson earlier today on social media, which was an interesting comparison there. What do you think, Matt?
Well, great for the British IndyCar fans that we're going to get Louis Foster on the grid. That's a big positive, because it looks like we're probably going to lose Jack Harvey, aren't we? So that as a full-timer. So good for us that we've got Louis to cheer. And he has been tremendous this year in Indy NXT. Was it 7 races in a row or something that he didn't finish lower than second towards the end of the season? Incredible run. And 57% of the laps in the whole season led is just is a massive number. When I think the first I saw of it was, Kobe, when you posted it in our chat that there was going to be an announcement. And my first thought was, they're going to announce Graham Rahal's coming back. But they've actually done something different, which is quite good. And again, what was it? A couple of years ago, Indy NXT was looking like it was, at the end of Indy Lights. It looked like that championship was going to be on its knees. And now we've seen all this promotion in the recent time. Of course, we can add Roland Siegel to that list as well, coming up through the year and getting into the McLaren car for his various routes. So it's really positive for the series, which just seems to be going from strength to strength. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those, we're going to have to give him some time to get up to speed. He's already driven an IndyCar. He had a test last month to, I can't remember who that was with actually, but I did read that he had a test last month. So he's got some car experience. He'll get plenty more between now and the end of the year and then into the new season before we go to St. Pete. So I'm just hopeful to see what he can do. And if he can be the next someone like a Lundgaard that comes out of a little bit out of nowhere realistically in the scope of the IndyCar paddock and does really well, then more power to his elbow.
Yeah, I think the main thing we were mentioning when we were talking about the future of Louis Foster at Portland was this is going to be one of the most competitive silly seasons we've seen in a while, with the integration of the charter system and just how many people want in or want to stay in. And I thought it was a big maybe for Louis Foster, but when you consider just how dominant of a season he's had in Next compared to, the other two the other two former Next champions that just came out, I mean, it's a performance we haven't seen in a really, really long time of this caliber. But I think, as you mentioned, Matt, it's fantastic for British IndyCar fans. No matter where we end up seeing Jack Harvey going, whether that's, staying with Del Coyne somewhere else, or even if it's the Fox booth, I know he has interest in going there. I think Pietro Fittipaldi's future is very much up in the air right now, especially with this organization. Obviously some good money was brought in with 5 Hour Energy, but I'm not sure if the results were quite what RLL wanted out of him. But we'll see. It's already flipping over a big stone here. And now that you got Lundgaard gone, you got to ask if it's going to be Vips or someone else filling in the rest of those seats.